The Union Pacific locomotive ground to a halt at 3:47 p.m., 20 miles from anywhere that mattered. No station, no town, just endless New Mexico desert stretching in every direction under a sky so blue it hurt to look at. Thomas Mercer felt it before he heard it, that sudden absence of motion after 6 hours of rhythmic clacking. The kind of stop that wasn't scheduled, the kind that meant trouble. He was in the dining car, coffee halfway to his lips when the silence hit. Around him, 15 other passengers looked up from their meals, conversations dying mid-sentence. Outside the windows, nothing but scrub brush and dust devils. Then Thomas heard it, a sound that made his coffee cup freeze in midair. Tick, tick, tick. Coming from the cargo car, steady, mechanical, deliberate. And the conductor, a man named Harrison who'd checked Thomas's ticket that morning with a smile, was nowhere to be found. Thomas set down his cup and stood. He was 62, a telegraph operator retiring after 40 years, and he'd learned to trust his instincts. Right now, those instincts were screaming. "Anyone seen Harrison?" he called out. Heads shook. A woman clutched her handbag tighter. A businessman loosened his collar. "Maybe he's up front," someone offered. "Engine trouble." But Thomas was already moving toward the cargo car, and 3 other men followed. A rancher named Dutch, a preacher called Elijah, and a young railroad worker named Sam who couldn't have been more than 20. The cargo car door was locked, a heavy padlock, military grade, the kind that said, "Official business, stay out." And behind that door, clear as church bells, tick, 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 coming from the cargo car. Steady, mechanical, deliberate. "That's a timer," Sam said, voice tight. "I've worked munitions trains. That's a—" "Bomb," Dutch finished. His weathered face had gone pale. "Someone's planted a bomb on this train." Thomas pressed his ear to the door. The ticking was too regular, too precise. But something else bothered him, a feeling he couldn't name. He pulled back and looked at the padlock, then at the platform beneath his feet. "Where's the conductor?" he asked again. They searched the entire train, every car, every compartment, every closet. Harrison was gone, vanished like smoke. His conductor cap sat on a seat in the passenger car, but the man himself had disappeared like smoke. "Maybe he jumped," the preacher suggested. "Maybe he knew about the bomb and—" "Jumped into the middle of the desert?" Thomas shook his head. "At full speed, he'd be dead. Then where the hell is he?" No one had an answer. If you remember when train travel was an adventure, not just transportation, hit that like button and drop a comment. What's the most mysterious thing you've ever witnessed on a journey? I love hearing your stories. Thomas walked to the rear of the train and looked back at the tracks they'd traveled. His heart stopped. "Dutch," he said quietly. "Come here." The rancher joined him, squinting into the sun. "What am I looking at?" Thomas pointed. The tracks. Behind the train, stretching back toward Albuquerque where they'd departed that morning, the railroad tracks were gone. Not torn up, not damaged, just absent, as if they'd never been laid. The desert ran unbroken to the horizon, no rails, no ties, nothing. "That's impossible," Dutch breathed. "So is a vanishing conductor," Thomas said. "So is a locked cargo car we can't open. So is a train that stops in the middle of nowhere with no explanation." They told the others. Panic rippled through the passenger cars like wildfire. A woman started crying. The businessman demanded they break open the cargo car. Someone suggested they all walk to the nearest town, but no one knew which direction that was or how far. And all the while, the ticking continued. Steady, relentless. Tick, tick, tick. Thomas returned to the cargo car with Sam, who'd found a crowbar. "We're opening it," Sam said. "Bomb or not, we need to know." They pried at the lock, metal shrieking. Finally, with a crack that echoed across the desert, the door gave way. Inside, the cargo car was nearly empty. Just one object sitting in the center of the wooden floor, surrounded by straw packing. A black iron box, 3 feet on each side, covered with brass fittings and dials, and on its face, a clock, but not a normal clock. This one was running backwards. The hands moved counterclockwise,
each tick audibly clicking the mechanism back 1 second. Thomas stared. "What in God's name is that?" Sam stepped closer, then jerked back. "Look at the dials! Those aren't hours! Those are years!" He was right. The clock face was labeled differently. 1885, 1886, 1887, all the way to 1899, which was the current year, and the hand was currently pointing at 1899, but with each tick, it moved incrementally backward, toward 1898, toward 1897, toward the past. "It's counting down," the preacher whispered, now standing in the doorway. "But to what?" Thomas noticed something else. Attached to the box was a brass plate with an engraving. "Property of Wells Technical Institute, Prototype 7, unauthorized transport prohibited." "It's not a bomb," Thomas said slowly. "It's something else." Dutch pushed past them and examined the box. "There's a lever here, and a note." He pulled a folded paper from underneath the lever and read aloud. "To whom concerned, this device is a temporal displacement engine. At the request of parties unknown, I was instructed to transport it from Denver to San Francisco without activation. The device activated on its own at 3:47 p.m. I cannot stay. Where I was born no longer exists at the time period the device is reverting to. If I remain, I will cease to exist. Godspeed. E. Harrison, Conductor." Silence. Absolute, crushing silence. "He's saying that this machine is taking us back in time?" Sam spoke carefully. "That's insane," Dutch snapped. "Then explain the tracks," Thomas said. "Explain how railroad tracks that were behind us are now gone. This route wasn't built until 1892. If we're going backwards through time, the tracks disappear because they haven't been built yet," Sam finished. The preacher made the sign of cross. "Lord have mercy!" Over the next hour, the proof became undeniable. The sun moved backwards across the sky, resetting to its earlier position. A hawk they'd watched fly east suddenly appeared again, flying the same path in reverse. And the device in the cargo car kept ticking, the year hand creeping steadily backward. 1898, 1897, 1896. The passengers gathered in the dining car, faces pale, voices hushed.
"How long until it stops?" the woman asked. Thomas had been studying the device. "There's no indication it stops. It could go back 50 years, 100, maybe forever." "Then we'll be erased," the businessman said. "If it goes back far enough, we'll never have been born." "Not all of us," Dutch said, looking at the older passengers. "Some of us were alive in the 1850s. "But our children won't be," a mother whispered, clutching her daughter. "My baby was born in 1895. If this goes back past that—" She couldn't finish. If this story is bringing back memories of the old radio mystery shows, make sure you're subscribed. I post a new story every single day, the kind of tales that stick with you. What state or country are you listening from today? Thomas stood abruptly. "There's a lever on the device. Harrison's note didn't say what it does, but it's there for a reason," Sam finished. "Maybe it stops the countdown, or reverses it forward." "Or makes it worse," Dutch countered. "We're dead either way if we do nothing," Thomas said. "That hand is approaching 1890. I wasn't born until 1837, so I'm safe for now. But most of you—" He looked around at the younger faces. "You won't make it past 1880. The preacher spoke up. "What if the lever doesn't stop it? What if it releases us? What if pulling it ejects the train from whatever temporal field this device has created?" "That's speculation," the businessman argued. "Everything about this is speculation," Thomas shot back. "But I'd rather die trying something than sit here and watch us all disappear." A vote was called. 15 passengers, 12 voted to pull the lever. 3 abstained, too terrified to choose. Thomas, Dutch, and Sam returned to the cargo car. The device was still ticking, the year hand now pointing at 1892. Outside, Thomas could see the landscape shifting. The telegraph poles that had lined the route were vanishing one by one as time rewound past the year they'd been erected. "Ready?" Thomas asked. Sam and Dutch nodded. Thomas gripped the brass lever. It was cold under his palm, vibrating slightly with the mechanism's rhythm. He thought about his wife waiting for him in California, his grandchildren he'd never met, the life he'd built over 62 years. And he pulled. The sound that followed wasn't an explosion, it was the opposite, an implosion, a rushing, collapsing sensation like the world was folding in on itself. Light bent, colors inverted, Thomas felt his body stretch and compress simultaneously, time pulling him in a dozen directions at once. Then silence. He opened his eyes. The train was moving, the familiar clack, clack, clack of wheels on rails, sunlight streaming through windows, the smell of coffee and coal smoke. Thomas staggered to his feet. Around him, the other passengers were doing the same, disoriented but whole. The woman clutched her daughter, sobbing with relief. The businessman checked his pocket watch, face slack with disbelief. Sam stumbled to the window. "Look!" The tracks were back, stretching behind them, solid and real. And ahead, in the distance, Thomas could see buildings, a station, civilization. They'd returned. The cargo car door was open, and Thomas rushed to it. Inside, the black iron box was gone. Just empty space and scattered straw. "Where did it go?" Dutch asked. Thomas had no answer. The device had simply vanished, as if it had never existed. When the train pulled into the station 20 minutes later, Alamogordo, New Mexico, the station master boarded, clipboard in hand, cheerfully asking if they'd had a pleasant journey. "Did you have any stops?" Thomas asked. Carefully. The station master frowned. "Stops? No, sir. You've been on schedule the whole way from Albuquerque. No delays at all." "What time is it?" 4:15 p.m., sir." Thomas checked his own watch. It read 4:15 p.m. They had lost no time. As far as the world was concerned, nothing had happened. But Thomas knew better. They all did. That evening, in a hotel in Alamogordo, Thomas sent a telegram to Wells Technical Institute in Denver. "Prototype 7 lost. Do not attempt recovery. Some doors should stay closed." 3 days later, he received a reply. "Prototype 7 never existed. No records found. Who is this?" Thomas burned the telegram. He never spoke of the train again. Neither did any of the other passengers, though they'd occasionally see each other over the years, at train stations, in hotels, on street corners, and they'd share a look, a nod of recognition. They knew. And 50 years later, in 1949, when Thomas Mercer died peacefully in his sleep at the age of 112, his granddaughter found something strange in his belongings. A conductor's cap, old, worn, with the name E. Harrison stitched inside the brim. And a note in Thomas's handwriting. He jumped to save us. He knew the machine would take him back before he was born, so he stepped off the train and into the desert, choosing erasure over watching us disappear. Remember him. Remember that some men face oblivion so others can live. The cap and note were donated to the Railroad Museum in Albuquerque. They sit in a display case today next to a placard that reads, "Artifacts of Unknown Origin, Circuit 1899. But if you look closely at the museum's records, really closely, you'll find something odd. There is no record of any conductor named E. Harrison ever working for Union Pacific. No employment file, no pension, no death certificate. According to every official document, the man never existed. But somewhere in the New Mexico desert, if you know where to look, you can still find a single set of footprints. They lead away from the old rail line, out into the emptiness, and then they simply stop, as if the man who made them walked straight out of time itself. So, here's my question for you. If you could go back to any year of your life, knowing what you know now, would you do it? Drop your answer in the comments. I genuinely want to know. And if you enjoyed this story, share it with someone who appreciates a good mystery. Thanks for spending part of your day with me. I'll see you tomorrow with another tale.